Hello everybody and welcome back, and this week we're going to be doing some cooking. We're going to be making pizzas in a frying pan, and this is a recipe provided to me by Zach's mum, so thank you very much, Paula. Let's have a look at what we're going to need to try this recipe. Okay, so we're going to need some toppings, what you'd like on your pizza. I'm going to make a tuna and sweet corn pizza today, so I've got some tuna here and some sweet corn. We need something tomatoey for the base. I've got this, I found this in the supermarket, which is just a tomato and basil sauce. You can see it's about the right amount for a pizza as well. But you can use anything. You can use tomato puree, tinned tomatoes, or tomato passata. You can buy a shop-bought tomato sauce like I have. You can even use ketchup. And some pizzas work really well with a cheese-based sauce as well. So you can use a cheese sauce instead of a tomato sauce as your base. Some pizzas work a little bit better with tomato. I think tomato and the tuna and sweet corn are going to work well today. And you're going to need some self-raising flour. Now I am going to use normal self-raising flour. There are ways that you can make this if you're gluten-free or you're trying to go for a gluten-free recipe. But I'm going to be showing you today just a normal self-raising flour. We're going to make a simple dough, and I'll show you the process of doing that. So I'm going to weigh out 125 grams. So I've got my scales already here, nearly. Oh, a little bit too much, but don't worry. As long as your dough is the right consistency, you don't have to use all of it, do you? You could even make 2 smaller pizzas. So the next job is for us to get a mixing bowl and to start to make our dough. Okay, so we're going to take our flour and add it to our mixing bowl. And we're going to add a little bit of water at a time. Now, I've got a rough idea in my head of about 4 tablespoons of water, but you should always add your water a little bit at a time so that you can stop when the dough looks about right. We're also going to add just a tablespoon of olive oil to the dough. I find it gives it a really nice olivey taste, just a little bit more Italian. So we're not making loads of dough at the moment, so really just enough for one pizza. So it really is just a little splash, just to help bind that dough together. Now, I hope you've already washed your hands, but if you haven't, you must always wash your hands before preparing food. So give your hands a wash now before we get stuck in. Okay, so I'm going to add just a little bit of water, maybe a tablespoon. And I'm just going to use a fork to begin with, just to start to bring that together with the flour. And I'm just judging it really, just watching. Once it gets to a certain point, I'm going to get in there with my hands and give it a good knead. But as you can see, it's really dry at the moment, so I'm just going to keep adding some water. And you'll know when it looks about right. You see, it's just starting to clump a bit now. That moisture's bringing that dough together. Looking good, actually. A little bit more water. Just go slowly with the water. You can always add water, but you can't take it away once it's in there. You'll have to add more flour if it gets a bit too soggy. Okay, that's not looking too bad now. Let's have a little go with my hands. I've got enough water here ready to add more if I want to. Amazing. It actually goes such a long way, that water. A little bit more, but it's certainly ready to start using my hands. So I'm just going to add maybe another tablespoon. So that is about 4 tablespoons I've added now. And that's not too far off being about right. Remember, I added a little bit more flour than I wanted. I think a few more grams of flour than I wanted. Nice. Still feeling a little bit dry and crumbly in places, so just keep adding. We want it to have this kind of nice consistency all the way through. Another tablespoon. There you go. Okay. That's looking a bit more like it now. Nice. Now it's a little bit, can you see it's a little bit sticky? You know, I said you need to judge it. I've probably added a little bit too much water now. Not much, but you can just add a touch of flour just to dry it off a bit and get that consistency right. So I'm going to get a spoon and just get a little bit of flour in there. So I'm just sifting a little bit of flour here, and that's going to hopefully just even out my mixture, get it to the right consistency, and already that's looking great. So it's not the end of the world if you add a bit too much water, just a touch more flour. Oh, perfect. So you know it's ready when it's got a really lovely smooth appearance, and then it's just a matter of getting some work into it. You've really got to just knead it, bring those ingredients nicely together, and as you knead it, you're also warming it up with your hands, and you'll start to see it getting a really lovely smooth appearance, a bit like Play-Doh. And that's how you know you're getting the dough ready to go into your pan. Okay, I won't bore you with endless kneading. I will come back in just a couple of minutes. I'm going to do this for a couple more minutes. What I'm doing is folding it over like that and just using my fist to press it back into a flatter shape, and then folding it again. Just a nice kneading motion. You can also squeeze it between your hands like this if you like. But I won't bore you with that. I'm going to pause the video here and come back once I've given it a bit more of a knead. Okay, I've put a lot of work into it, and my dough is a lovely smooth texture. Can I get a nice close up there? Really nice smooth texture. And it's ready to be made into my pizza base. Now, I have to be honest, I forgot one important thing when I was looking at the ingredients earlier. Yes, that's right, it's cheese. And anyone who knows me will know, I can't believe I forgot that one. Yes, I'm going to put some grated cheese on the top as well, and I haven't grated it yet, which is why I didn't remember it. But most pizzas will have a nice cheese on, and you can have a cheddar or a parmesan, or there are lots of lovely cheeses you can put on a pizza. But I'm just going to be using a bit of cheddar and a bit of parmesan today to go on my pizza, and I think it's going to be lovely. So the next step is to take our dough and flatten it out into a round shape, ready for the pan. So let's do that. Okay, so all we're going to do is we're going to use our hands for this. You could get a rolling pin if you want to, but we're going to start by pressing it out into this circle shape. And I'm sort of spreading it with my fingers. Flip it over and do the same. And your goal, it doesn't have to be completely round, but your goal is to have it nice and round, nice and thin if you can. I personally like a nice thin base on my pizza. I don't know about you, but I'm going to go for quite a thin base. Now, you might have seen chefs that are making pizzas. They are pulling it like this by going round and round and round, and you can definitely have a go at that as well. That works quite nicely. So it's just spinning it round in your hands, and every time you spin it, you give it just a little pull so that you're pulling evenly on all the edges. But younger children will probably find it much easier just to press it like this. And even perhaps using a rolling pin, you can see it's getting wider and flatter, but it's still very, very thick. And if you have a very thick pizza base, it probably isn't going to cook very well in the middle. It will be a bit doughy. So you want it to cook in the frying pan. And because we're cooking this pizza in the frying pan, we want the heat to come up through that base as well and cook the ingredients on the top. And if you have a really thick base, what you'll find is the ingredients on the top, well, they're a little bit cold by the time you've got it on the plate. So a nice thin base is going to help your ingredients get nice and hot. It's going to help the pizza cook in the middle. Overall, better, I think. Well, there you go. My base is ready. It's lovely and thin. And it's even, which means there's no lumpy bits. If I run my hand over it, it feels nice and flat. And if you feel any particular lumps, just kind of squash them out so that it's a nice thin, flat pizza. So now we're going to put this pizza in a pan and cook it. So this is the bit that you'll definitely need a grown-up for, because it involves using the cooker and hot things. So make sure you've got a grown-up with you. We're going to turn the cooker on. We're going to heat up a pan. So I want you to wear gloves if you normally wear gloves when you're using the cooker. and just make sure you've got someone at home, a grown-up, watching you and helping you with this bit.